Yes, good morning everyone. I am going to tell you about India and Russia bilateral relationship. You all know that India has a very good relation with Russia, and it is not that it was built, this relationship was built after 1947, it is not. India was greatly inspired by the October Revolution of 1917, and I would say that our Honorable First Prime Minister, Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, he also visited Russia, and even in 1927, when Russia was celebrating 100th year of October Revolution, he participated in a function there. So this indicates that India was greatly influenced by the Russian Revolution that inspired our freedom fighters to wage war or to wage struggle against the British colonials. And India was not only inspired by the October Revolution of Russia, India was greatly influenced by American Revolution also. And with that, India was influenced by French Revolution of 1789, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose also visited Ireland. And so wherever in the world there was some struggles going on against their colonial masters, India was influenced, because India wanted to know how they are struggling, what were their tactics, or how they defeated their colonial masters. So India also learned by going all those countries personally that how the movement was going on and how they were doing struggles against their masters. But in Russia there was no colonial master. In Russia there was Tsar rule, and the people of Russia were very much annoyed and very much disgusted with the type of operation and type of exploitation by the rulers on the common people. So that was the reason. However, India and Russia has a very good relationship since pre-independence period, right? So Russia has been a long-standing and time-tested partner for India. The development of Russia and India relations has been a key pillar of India's foreign policy. Since the signing of the declaration of the India-Russia strategic partnership in October 2000, during the visit of President Putin, India-Russia ties have acquired a quantitatively new character with enhanced level of cooperation in almost all areas, including political, security, defense, trade, and economy. Not only that, in the fields of science and technology, culture, security, defense, trade, and economy, and people-to-people ties have been strengthened in last 77 years. So during the visit of the Russian president to India in December 2010, the strategic partnership was elevated to the level of special and privileged strategic partnership. So India and Russia are now having special and privileged strategic partnership. Under the strategic partnership, several institutionalized dialogue mechanisms operate at both political and official levels to ensure regular interaction and follow-up on cooperation activities. The India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission, which is known as IRIGC, has two divisions. Number one, the trade, economic, scientific, technological, and cultural cooperation, co-chaired by External Affairs Minister from India and First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov from Russia, and the military and military technical cooperation headed by the defense ministers of the two countries. So in December 2021, A new dimension to the bilateral cooperation was added with the first 2+2 dialogue, foreign plus defense ministers of both countries. So this was a double meeting, right? So taking place alongside the summit level talks between Prime Minister and President Putin. Leadership level engagements, you will find that in the leadership level there was engagement between two countries. The annual summit between the Prime Minister of India and the President of the Russian Federation is the highest institutionalized dialogue mechanism in the strategic partnership between India and Russia. So far, 21 annual summits have been taken place alternatively in India and Russia. The last summit was held on October 6, 2021 in New Delhi, where 28 memorandum of understandings and agreements were signed between the two countries. The last in-person bilateral meeting between the two leaders took place in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, on the sidelines of the SCO summit in September 2022. Since then, the leaders have maintained regular contact through telephone conversations. India and Russia keeps liaise or keeps contact over telephone also. You see, and they discuss on various national and international issues, and they review the progress on bilateral cooperation and exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. Do you know how many telephone calls were held between our Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Vladimir Putin, the Russian President? 5 telephone conversations were held in 2022. 2 telephone conversations were held in 2023, in June 13, in June and August, and then 3 telephone calls so far made. So far, I will not say, from January 15 to March 20 and June 5. So 3 telephone calls were held between Vladimir Putin, the Russian President, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So this is the level of conversation. He may be far in Russia, and the Indian President may be here in India, but they have regular contacts over telephone, right? So they have these kinds of, and so far I or the people in the world see that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is having a very close, I say, a very close informal relationship with President Putin, and this informal relation has an important role in bilateral relation and maintaining peace and prosperity in the world. And it benefits both the countries. Particularly, India gets much benefited by this relationship of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi with his counterpart with his colleague President Putin in Russia. So both countries remain in touch at ministerial level as well. External Affairs Minister and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov meet regularly, bilaterally as well as on the sidelines of major events. In 2023, you can remember that they met 7 times, most recently in Moscow on December 27, 2023, on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit and Finance Ministers meeting in Jakarta, September 6 and July 13. BRICS in South Africa, August 23 and June 1, SCO May 4 in Goa, and G20 March 1 in New Delhi meetings. So External Affairs Minister Mr. S. Jaishankar visited Russia in December 2023 and had meetings with President Putin. Foreign Minister Lavrov and First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov, he is co-chair of IRIGC-TEC. So this is the ministerial level engagements of both the countries. Similarly, the defense ministers, NSA, National Security Advisors, and other ministers regularly meet their counterparts. NSA last visited St. Petersburg on 24 April 2024 to attend the 12th International Conference of High Officials responsible for security matters of both the countries. So where he met the then Secretary of Russian Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev. Indian delegation to the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum SPIEF 2023 was headed by Minister of State for Steel and Rural Development Sri Phaggan Singh Kulaste, and in 2022 by Minister of Health and Family Welfare Sri Manshukh Mandavia. At the Eastern Economic Forum EEF 2023, Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways and Ayush Sri Sarbananda Sonowal led the Indian delegation. So this type of ministerial delegation or ministerial interaction or interactions take place between Russia and India. Not only that, India and Russia has some intergovernmental commission also. The primary mechanism for enhancing trade and economic cooperation is the IRIGC TAC, which had its 24th session in New Delhi on 18th April 2023. External Affairs Minister met his Russian co-chair, Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov, on December 26 in Moscow and reviewed matters related to bilateral cooperation in trade and economy, energy, defense and connectivity. IRIGC M&MTC, co-chaired by the Indian and Russian defense ministers, last met in New Delhi on December 6, 2021. During the summit between the leaders and the inaugural 2+2 dialogue, both the defense ministers had also met on the sidelines of the SCO defense ministers meeting in New Delhi on 28 April 2022. So multilateral engagements are also take place between these two countries. India and Russia cooperate closely at several multilateral platforms such as the United Nations, G20, BRICS and SCO. Russia is the BRICS co-chair for 2024. India's presidency of the G20 and SCO in 2023 afforded the opportunity for officials and ministers of both countries to meet on the sidelines of various events in India. Russian participation at SCO events in India in 2023 included Foreign Minister Lavrov, 4 to 5 May, the then Secretary of Russian Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, 29 March, Minister of Energy Situations, Alexander Kurenkov, 20th April, and the then Defense Minister, Sergei Shoigu, 28 April. During its presidency of the G20, India hosted Foreign Minister Lavrov 1 to 3rd March and 9 to 10 September 2023, and head of the Federation Council, Upper House of the Russian Parliament, Ms. Valentina Medvinko, 12 to 15 October. So both the countries have a history of close cooperation in the United Nations. Russia has consistently expressed support for India's candidature for a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. India has been claiming for the permanent membership of Security Council, and for which many countries have shown their support, and particularly Russia, India's great friend, has also shows her support for India's permanent membership in the United Nations Security Council. So trade and economic relations with Russia is always good, and gradually the trade relation share is growing rapidly. So intensify the trade and economic relations has been identified as a priority area by both the leaders, who had earlier set the targets of increasing bilateral investment of $50 billion and bilateral trade to $30 billion by 2025. As per figures of Department of Commerce, in financial year 2023-2024, bilateral trade has reached an all-time high of $65.7 billion. Total bilateral merchandise trade for financial year 2022 to 2023 was $65.7 billion. India's exports of $4.26 billion to Russia, and India's imports from Russia is $61.44 billion. Here I find that India is exporting less, very less, while India is importing many more things from Russia, particularly during the crisis period, during the COVID pandemic. India imported crude oil from Russia by defying the sanction of the United States and European Council. So major items of export from India include pharmaceuticals, organic mechanicals, organic chemicals, electrical machinery and mechanical appliances, iron and steel, while major items of import from Russia include oil and petroleum products, fertilizers, mineral resources, precious stones and metals, vegetable oil, etc. India is importing more, while I expect that India will try to put more emphasis on export. Next, bilateral trade in services has remained stable during the last 5 years, with trade balance in Russia's favor. It amounted to $1.021 billion for the year 2021. Bilateral investments between the two countries remain strong and surpassed the previous target of $30 billion in 2018, leading to revised target of $50 billion by 2025. The major bilateral investments by Russia in India are in the oil and gas, petrochemicals, banking, railways and steel sectors, while Indian investment in Russia are mainly in oil and gas and pharmaceutical sectors. Defense and security cooperation. India always seeks help from Russia, and Russia is always ready to help India in matter of its border security and its security from its neighboring country. India has long-standing and wide-ranging cooperation with Russia in the field of defense. The cooperation is guided by the IRIGC M&MTC mechanism, headed by the defense ministers of both countries. The 20th IRIGC and M&MTC meeting was held in December 2021. India and Russia participate in bilateral and multilateral military exercises across the three services. The bilateral exercise INDRA was last held in 2021. They also participate in multilateral exercises such as Vostok 2022 held in September 2022 in Russia. So this type of defense and security cooperation India has with Russia. Not only that, bilateral projects include the supply of S-400 licensed production of T-90 tanks and Su-30 MKI, supply of MiG-29 and Kamov helicopters, INS Vikramaditya, formerly Admiral Gorshkov, production of AK-203 rifles in India and BrahMos missiles. For India's Make in India program, Russia has also extended its helping hand to make this project of Narendra Modi a successful one. So India-Russia military technical cooperation has evolved over time from a buyer-seller framework to one involving into research and development, co-development and joint production of advanced defense technology and systems. You will be happy to know that India is having parliamentary cooperation also with Russia. The Inter-Parliamentary Commission between the Lok Sabha and the Russian State Duma, the lower house of Russian Parliament, has played a key role in facilitating parliamentary cooperation. It has met 5 times since its inception in 2000, 2003, 2015, 2017 and 2018. So the commission is co-chaired by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha and the Chairperson of the State Duma. The 5th India-Russia Inter-Parliamentary Commission was held in India on 9 December 2018. On the Russian side, both houses of Parliament, the State Duma, lower house, and the Federal Council, upper house, have their own group of deputies for Asia, which includes subgroup of deputies focusing on India. So to Russia, India is also a very important country. Similarly, on the Indian side, there is an India-Russia friendship group in the department, in the parliament. At the P20 summit in October 2023, the chairperson of the Federal Council, Valentina Matvinenko, led the Russian delegation to New Delhi. She had a bilateral meeting with Honorable Vice President of India and the Honorable Speaker of Lok Sabha on 11 and 12 April 2024. An Indian parliamentary delegation participated in meetings of chairs and committees on international affairs of BRICS parliaments held at the Russian Federation Council Upper House in Moscow. Science and technology. In the field of science and technology, India and Russia has close relationship and close friendship. Science and technology has played a key role in the bilateral relationship between India and Russia, especially in the early days after India's independence. Today, India and Russia work together on basic sciences, material sciences, mathematics and cutting-edge areas like India's manned space flight program, Gaganayan, nanotechnologies and quantum computing. India's only nuclear power plant established with another country is the Kudankulam nuclear plant in Tamil Nadu. The bilateral cooperation is guided by the new roadmap for science, technology and innovation, signed during the 21st Annual Summit in New Delhi in December 2021. And it is expected to boost innovation-related engagements between the two countries and focus on commercialization of technologies and full-cycle support for joint projects of economic and societal impact. In January 2023, the 12th meeting of the Russia-India Working Group on Science and Technology took place with representatives of the relevant ministries. Universities and societies of both countries also come together and help each other in promoting bilateral relationship, in promoting science and technology. In education sector also, India and Russia has a very good relationship. Indian students are enrolled in various courses in disciplines such as engineering, economics, sciences and other subjects in other universities. Medical students comprise the largest group among Indian students studying in Russia. Indology is taught in several Russian universities apart from Indian languages such as Hindi, Sanskrit and Pali. At the school level, the Atal Innovation Mission of India and SIRIUS Center collaborate together as part of initiative envisioned by Prime Minister and President Putin. They collaborate on innovations in different minister and focus areas like smart mobility, agri-tech, clean energy, space research, and healthcare. PM and President Putin jointly visited the representation of the students in Sochi, Russia in 2018 and at IIT Delhi in the next year, that is in 2019. Cultural cooperation. India and Russia have deep and historic cultural linkages. The famous Russian artist and philosopher Nicholas Roerich eventually settled in Himachal Pradesh. Writers like Leo Tolstoy and Alexander Pushkin had a profound influence on Indian literature and thought. Indian people, we used to read Bostak, we used to read probably progressive publishers, the books of progressive publishers, and the Russian books were sold in India in very cheap price, and My Capital and then selected works, 3 parts, have been bought from book fair from the Russian bookstalls. Okay, and I read these books. Those are very good books. Capital, that is Puji in Bengali, and say the selected works. So that is also in 3 parts. That is also very good book. Okay, either I would say 3 parts were good books. Okay, so writers like Leo Tolstoy and Alexander Pushkin had a profound influence on Indian literature and thought. The Jawaharlal Nehru Cultural Center, JNCC, Moscow, maintains close cooperation with leading Russian institutions. Prominent Russian universities and institutions teach Indian languages. Indian cinema remains popular in Russia with frequent film screenings across the country. Yoga is also immensely popular across Russia. So Indian yoga of Ramdevji has reached to Russia, not only in Russia, in UK, in USA, in more than 150 countries. Now Patanjali's yoga system is running and people are getting benefit from India's pranayam and yoga system. So the International Day of Yoga 2024 was celebrated in more than 60 regions of Russia. Can you imagine? So this is the impact of India on Russia. Diaspora and people-to-people ties. The people-to-people ties remain strong with gradual increase in bilateral tourism. The facility of e-visas for both countries has helped accelerate this process. Prominent Indians have been conferred Russian state awards for their contribution to building and strengthening Russia-India political, scientific and cultural ties. PM himself has been conferred the highest Russian state honor, Order of the Holy Apostle Andrew I. So this is the relation between India and Russia, and the bilateral relationship has remained strong and stable over more than 75 years. The India-Russia relationship has been among the steadiest of the major relationships in the world in contemporary era, with a shared commitment to a multipolar world, and continues to expand beyond the traditional areas of military, nuclear and space cooperation. Beyond the traditional areas of military, yes, in the past 2 years, the bilateral trade has expanded significantly, far exceeding the target of $30 billion earlier set for 2025. So there are discussions on the way to increase exports from India as well by developing new models of cooperation. Several connectivity initiatives are also increasingly central to the bilateral cooperation, especially the international North-South Transport Corridor and the Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor. Moreover, both countries remain committed to strengthen cooperation in the development of the Russian Far East region and working together in research, logistics and training in the Arctic region. There is a synergy between Russian pivot to the east its resource and technology, and India's own flagship initiatives such as Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. In July 15, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Russia, and Narendra Modi's visit to Russia became a controversy as well as new message of friendship, because the prime aim of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi was to settle the ongoing Russian-Ukraine tension or war through peaceful means, through dialogue, through conversation. That is the sole purpose of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Russia recently. So after nearly half a decade, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Russia, and a lot has changed since Prime Minister Modi last visited Russia in 2019. So India's trade with Russia hovered over $10 billion mark, and Russia's trade with Europe was at an all-time high despite sanctions. So all these would change the 22nd February 2022 with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A relationship prophesied to be dormant, veering towards mere symbolism, suddenly attained an economic impetus in 2023. Bilateral trade between India and Russia skyrocketed to $65 billion, fueled mainly by Russian energy imports. PM Modi's recent visit to Russia was a routine bilateral visit, not only to streamline issues that have emerged over the years, but also to chart the course of India-Russia cooperation in the years to come. So what was the outcome of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Russia in the month of July 2024? So during the visit, Prime Minister Modi was conferred with the Order of Saint Andrew the Apostle, the highest civilian honor in Russia, manifesting the importance of India in Russia's calculus. Russia considers India its friend. Similarly, India considers Russia its one of the best friends in international forum. So during the two-day visit, discussions were held on pressing issues such as the war in Ukraine, the repatriation of Indians in the Russian armed forces who were duped into fighting in the front line, and other issues such as the crisis in Gaza. Along with these discussions, 15 agreements were signed between India and Russia. It was a major achievement of India to conclude 15 agreements with Russia, including Memorandum of Understandings between the Trade Promotion Council of India and all Russia public organization, Business Russia, to promote bilateral trade and investment, and an agreement between Invest India and JSC, management company of Russian Direct Investment Fund. Both nations have set the target of $1 billion in bilateral trade by 2030, and I am very much sure that if the relation continues in this way, if the people-to-people relation continues in this way, if the business relation, if the trade relation between Russia and India goes in such a way, in this way, then I am very much sure that this target of 100 billion bilateral trade by 2030 will definitely be attained by both the countries. And Memorandum of Understanding was signed between the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change and Ministry of Economic Development of the Russian Federation to address climate change issues and work together on developing low carbon technologies. Further, an Memorandum of Understanding was concluded between the Survey of India and the Federal Services for State Registration, cadastry. In Arctic exploration, MOUs were signed between India's National Center for Polar Research and Arctic Research Institution on cooperation in research and logistics in the polar region. In the month of June 2024, Russia approved the draft logistics agreement, simplifying military to military exchanges, training, port calls, and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. So, this agreement will enable India to use Russia's Arctic facilities. During the visit, significant emphasis was laid on cooperation in the field of counter-terrorism and regional security, with both leaders discussed the situation in Afghanistan and issues related to radicalism, drug trafficking, and terrorism, and emphasized the importance of the role of Moscow format meetings for a long-term solution in Afghanistan. What does this mean? What does that visit of Prime Minister to Russia mean for India-Russia relations? Several strategic commentators have undermined the outcome of Prime Minister's visit by dismissing it as one driven by mere symbolism. However, the outcomes of the visit are quite significant. It indicates an enhanced economic partnership between the two nations in the years to come. On paper, if traffic on the Insta-SIM were to increase with a free trade agreement concluded with the EAEU, and not to mention the North Sea route, complementing the revival of the Soviet-era Chennai-Vladivostok maritime corridor, it will reduce the transit time from 40 days to 20 days. You just imagine how it will benefit the people of both the countries, which can result in India taking a more proactive role in Eurasian trade. So the path will help India to promote its trade and business and commerce through this maritime corridor. Not only that, establishing 2 new consulates in Ekaterinburg and Kazan further indicates India's increasing interest in Russia. It also reflects the increasing presence of an Indian diaspora across Russia. The Indian business presence, although minimal in Russia, has made considerable progress over the years. Even though the energy trade dominates the trade basket, the Indian pharmaceutical sector in Russia has emerged as a top medical supplier in Russia, replacing Germany. Several Indian pharma giants such as Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Sun Pharma, and Cipla have partnered with local Russian firms and begun producing generic medicines. So this is also very interesting achievement of India. Since 2022, the payment settlement has remained a problem and further remained with rupee ruble falling in 2023. However, a mechanism has emerged wherein the payment dispute has been settled. According to VTB Bank CEO Andrei Kostin, the problem of the frozen rupee in Russian coffers has been resolved. The rupees have been turned into rubles through intermediaries in India and UAE. Furthermore, banks in Russia have invested the rupees in Indian shares, government securities, and infrastructure projects, and the transaction cost involved in converting rupees to ruble have come down, which has made trade a bit more seamless. Lastly, I like to say that Mr. Putin accepted the request to discharge and repatriate the Indians serving in the Russian armed forces, estimated to be about 35 to 50 people, is a significant diplomatic victory for New Delhi, as Nepal and Sri Lanka were unable to secure the repatriation of the citizens serving in the Russian army despite multiple appeals. So, this relationship between India and Russia is a good one, and this India and Russia's bilateral relations, trade relations, cultural relations, business relations, and commercial relations are epoch-making, and it is very praiseworthy by the initiative of our Honorable Prime Minister. This is the formal and informal relation of our Honorable Prime Minister that has facilitated the trade growth between the two countries, and with the help and assistance and cooperation of Russia, India will grow and shine in the days to come in almost all sectors, and with the cooperation and more investment in Indian business and trade, in infrastructure, in science and technology, in space research, and in other sectors, will help India to grow its economy, because India needs more foreign direct investment to increase its growth, to increase its domestic as well as international monetary position. And with Russia's help, with Russia's cooperation, both India and Russia could prosper and could go ahead and could do much things in the days to come, when more people and people cooperation will be increased, when the cultural relations, when educational relations will go on, will increase more, there will be exchange of people between these countries, then more business opportunities and more prosperity will take place in both the countries, and Russia will be benefited by India's non-violence and non-aggression policies, and from the Russia will be benefited by India's spirituality, and at the same time India will be benefited by Russian technology transfer and crude oil and other science and technology related exports. So in this way, in the coming days, I hope that both India and Russia will come closer, more closer. I hope that Russia will abide by or listen to the advice of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi and withdraw its forces and withdraw its attacks on Ukraine, because so many people in Ukraine are dying even today. So the war must be stopped. With this appeal, I, being a citizen of India and a friend of both Russia and Ukraine, I request the Russian President Mr. Vladimir Putin to stop invading Ukraine and killing the innocent people in Ukraine. With this expectation, I would like to conclude here. Thank you. Thank you very much.